Hello and welcome. Welcome to Everything is Energy. Welcome to the new moon in Pisces, which is exact on March 18th, 2026 at 6:23 p.m. Pacific time. With this new moon, we have both the sun and the moon together at 28 degrees and 27 minutes of the sign of Pisces, which is pretty essentially the final, close to the final degree of the final sign of the zodiac. So this new moon carries a very particular quality. Not only is it Pisces energy, Pisces is mutable, feminine water. It's introverted energy. It's ruled by Neptune. Pisces, because is ruled by Neptune, is also supporting us in seeing through illusion and delusion and in dissolving. Pisces has a sensitive energy. It's an intuitive energy that is aware of not only itself, but the existence of others. And while Pisces is the 12th sign, it's the last sign of the zodiac. It represents, as I mentioned, dissolution, but also compassion and forgiveness. And as the last sign of the zodiac, there's really this opportunity for us to take the culmination of all the wisdom of the entire last 365-day cycle, and I'll get to why that is important in a moment. But have the opportunity to take that wisdom, if we've really been working with the energy, been being present with what comes into our lives and into our awareness, there's this potential for the culmination of everything that we've learned to be able to release what doesn't serve and carry those nuggets of wisdom forward. And so another part of this energy is compassion, because if we're both dissolving and preparing for a new start, there's this sense of being an important, powerful, conscious creator in the collective ocean of consciousness. It is simultaneously at once that we are so powerful and also that we are interconnected with everything. And as this new moon occurs at the very end of Pisces, it's really emphasizing this release before renewal. And this is not only because it's at the last degrees of Pisces, but also because 2 days after this lunation, on the 20th of March, we have the sun entering into Aries at the spring equinox, and that marks the beginning of the astrological year. So this moment, this new moon becomes very much a threshold. And I've been speaking about threshold in and out for the last couple months, but I really get the sense that the threshold we've been preparing is upon us. And the energy of Pisces is the exhale before the inhale. And it's important to remember that the universe abhors a vacuum. So just because we're releasing things does not at all mean that anything is wrong. It's just a natural part of the energetic cycle of the cosmos. If you think about composting in nature, it's the breaking down of something that gives us the rich nutrients in the soil that enable us to grow beautiful crops. And so this Pisces new moon at the anaretic degree is the moment where something completes so that something new can begin. And so I want to talk about this anaretic degree again. I talk about it when it's relevant, but the last degrees of in an astrology sign, they often carry a feeling of culmination. And this is particularly true in Pisces. And Pisces is really inviting us to consider what illusions are dissolving, what emotional stories have run their course, and also what dreams are better off being released so that new ones can be born. And I mentioned Pisces is an introverted sign. It governs imagination, empathy, spirituality, as well as that connection to the collective that I was mentioning. And at this last degree of this last sign, there's this sense of emotional and or spiritual closure. But I also alluded to, and it's worth pointing out here, this isn't necessarily anything dramatic. This is powerful stuff, but it's more like a quiet realization. It's an internal knowing that something is completing or has completed its arc, its cycle. And so what we're being asked to do is to sort of release our grip here. And for humans, that can be a challenge sometimes, especially if the world that we see around us, all we know is what we're leaving, and it's not super clear what's next. Those are the moments, those are the precise moments that, in my experience, as a healer and just as a person, are the most powerful. That space where you've been asking and asking and seeding and refining and listening and going with the flow, and still the human mind is aware that the thing that you want to create is not yet here. And there's often an experience right before the manifestation pops that feels like a test. But that test is almost not, it's a test that our subconscious might be aware of, but when we're in the middle of it, it's a challenge for sure. It's a gray area that feels like, are we still in the middle? And when the universe asks us, as we're in the middle, if we still are wanting this goal, and we respond with the same fortitude and conviction and commitment to who we are and why we're here, that's when the magic really starts to happen. So this sort of lunar cycle, I would offer, is one of the more potent ones of the year. We're coming off the heels of eclipse season, and we're building momentum for the future. And as we build momentum, the idea of softening our grip on the past, that's what will allow the waters of Pisces to almost metaphorically and energetically carry away what is no longer needed. And it's worth noting that this new moon is deeply tied to one of the most significant alignments of this year, and that is something I spoke at length about a little bit ago, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in early Aries. That was exact at the end of February, but it's still very much operational right now. We have the sun and the moon at the last degree of Pisces, and we have Neptune at 1 degree of Aries and Saturn at 3 degrees of Aries. So as the sun and moon are sitting at the final degrees of Pisces, they're activating this new cycle of Saturn and Aries. And this is extremely important. And they're also doing this right in alignment with the equinox. But getting to what Saturn and Neptune have to contribute here, let's remember that Saturn is karmic energy. Saturn represents structure. Saturn represents reality. Saturn really wants to help us ground things down into the physical plane, to take them from the nebulous space of our imagination and to bring them into reality. For that reason, Saturn's often associated with responsibility and boundaries as well. On the other hand, Neptune is about our dreams. It's about our ideals. It's about our spiritual vision. It's also about our ability to see through the illusions. And so when these two planets are together, the collective dream is confronting reality. And it's doing it at the very beginning of the Zodiac. And it's doing it while the astrological new year is beginning. It's doing it right on time. And so this means that illusions must dissolve and authentic vision must take form. And I say must in a very interesting way here, because there's something energetic that's happening on our planet right now where those who are seeking light and seeking a bright future and are connected to the powers that are available through love and unity and joy, those visionaries are so powerful. And it is not a numbers game in the way that we have been trained in the physical world to think about a numbers game of who's going to win. Whoever has the most wins. This is about energy. This is about magnetism. And this is about aligning ourselves with the forces of the cosmos. And what the cosmos is showing us right now is that we are at a threshold unequivocally, and that we can take heart in our contribution and lean into seeding the light and being the change. And because Aries is the sign of beginnings, it's a sign of courage. It's a sign of our personal identity. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction signals the birth of a new collective cycle. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunct the new moon at the last degree of Pisces, it means that at the same moment, or just as the exhale leaves, the inhale follows. There is no space between what we're releasing and what we're seeding. It's as if it's this beautiful yin yang or figure eight balance. But it's also worth noting that it is, in our world, in the physical world, it's a threshold moment. It's the last breath of the old dream, as well as the first whisper of the new one. It's also worth mentioning, I will put in the blog post for this, or in the post for this podcast, I'll put an image of the chart here for this lunation. And if you have a look at the chart, you'll see that there's very little opposition in this chart. And oppositions often come up as red lines, depending on the program that you use. And oppositions mean friction, just as they sound. The things that are apparent in this chart are trines and sextiles, which means that the energy is flowing. These are cooperative aspects that allow the energy to move and to integrate more fluidly. So in this chart, we have the sun and the moon along with Saturn and Neptune, because those four are all together conjunct, as I was mentioning. They're forming sextiles to Uranus at 28 degrees of Taurus. And Uranus is conjunct both Sedna and Algol. I'll get to that in just a moment. And now this reminds us that change is afoot and unfolding through awakening rather than through confrontation. That there is space, there's spaciousness, space for realization, space for integration, space for subtle energetic shifts that change the trajectory of the future. And so I mentioned that Uranus is conjunct both Sedna and Algol. I want to touch on this because this is very much a part of because of this aspect, it's very much a part of this new moon. And so, Uranus is currently at 28 degrees of Taurus and is conjunct Algol. Algol is the blinking third eye of Medusa, one of the more mythically powerful fixed stars. And in traditional mythology, Medusa is not only the gargoyled haired woman whose gaze turns men to stone. She was once a priestess who was violated in a temple, and then whether or not she was punished or protected is up to your own interpretation, by having her hair transformed into snakes. And while some accounts say that whoever she looked at, she turned to stone, other accounts say that when a person was not speaking the truth, that is when her gaze activated to turn another to stone. And so, in many modern interpretations, Medusa represents this word is going to sound more dramatic than I mean it, but the demonization of feminine power, the transformation of something that is sacred power into something that needs to be feared. And so Algol and Medusa, therefore, they symbolize maybe the energy that possibly lives in our emotional and our mental bodies, the energy that may have been suppressed or misunderstood, or even the energy that's been projected onto others. And so this conjunction with Uranus has been ongoing. It began, well, it was exact actually, less than a month ago. But because Medusa is a fixed star and Uranus moves very slowly, it is very much still in operation. They are all less than 2 degrees away from each other right now. And so this is a theme that's been very active at the end of 2025, and it's going to be active at least through March and into April 2026. And that's when Uranus, the planet of awakening and revolution, the planet that reminds us that we are the high technology that we seek. When Uranus meets Algol, there's the potential for buried truths to surface. There's the potential for any kind of power dynamic that may have been hidden to be revealed. There's the potential for fear-based narratives potentially beginning to collapse. And so, even though February 4th was when the conjunction was exact, we're still in eclipse season right now. We're still coming off the heels of eclipse season. Eclipse season is operational for 6 months after the eclipses. And so around about February 4th, for me personally, there wasn't a lot of mental and just podcast space to unpack this alignment, which is why I wanted to do it here. Because the essence of Uranus and Algol is awakening through confronting. Confronting is an interesting word, realizing, uncovering hidden truths. And because it's Uranus, these can bring sudden realizations. They can also expose anything that might be distorted. And there's also the potential to liberate a type of power that has long been suppressed. So with this new moon sextiling that conjunction, there's the opportunity to integrate these awakenings rather than to react to them, because the latter degrees of Pisces are the deep wisdom degrees. There's this sense that we're not fighting, and instead of maybe confronting, the word is realizing, because this is about an insight that becomes lived wisdom. And on the other side of Uranus, again, less than 2 degrees away, is the conjunction with Sedna. Now, this conjunction is approaching. This is going to be exact on May 24th this year, and I'll have time to talk about this a little bit more in a future broadcast. But, between this has been operational for a few months as well. Sedna she isn't a fixed star like Algol. She's a distant, she's a trans-Neptunian object. And her name is from the Inuit sea goddess Sedna. And in that myth, Sedna, in some of the forms, a lot of the different forms of the myth, she's betrayed by her father figure. She's cast into the ocean, and she tries to come back into the boat, and he cuts off her fingers. She comes back again, he cuts off her hand. She comes back again, he cuts off her arm. She falls to the sea, and she becomes the ruler of the deep sea and the guardian and the mother of all marine life. It's said that from her body everything was birthed. And so her story is interesting because there's a heavy theme there. The idea of betrayal can feel very heavy, but if we think about what we're moving through, releasing, exhaling, and inhaling, releasing something and seeding something almost simultaneously. So these themes that feel heavy, if there's anything that felt in the collective like it was dishonest or a betrayal, or if there was some type of abandonment of a contract, this is about the process of transformation, being willing to go through the descent to trust that the ascent is right on the heels. And so Sedna represents, truths that emerge from the deepest emotional and collective waters as well. And when Uranus meets Sedna, this is about an awakening at profound depths. This is not surface disruption. This is the surfacing of ancient patterns. And those patterns might be emotional, they might be ancestral, they might be ecological. And as we approach May, this alignment may very well reveal deeper truths about humanity's relationship, not only with each other, but with the earth, with the oceans, and with the collective consciousness. So put a pin in that. I'll go deeper into that as the conjunction approaches. But for now, again, this Pisces new moon, I would offer, is really the threshold moment for this year. It's this, but it's quiet. It's quietly preparing the ground. Now we also have the sun, the moon, Saturn, and Neptune. They're also forming a sextile to Pluto in early Aquarius. And this is significant. You know, Pluto represents power and transformation. Pluto represents the hidden truths beneath the surface. Pluto also is very much about the process of death and rebirth. And as we well know, for the past several years, Pluto in Capricorn has exposed our top-down systems, whether they're power structures or institutions or just centralized forms of authority, kind of exposed and shaken things out. And Pluto in Aquarius is just the beginning of a very vastly different story. You know, Aquarius introduces this archetype of distributed power. And so instead of these top down structures, we begin to see, at least I begin to see circles, circular structures, something more like networks and centralized hubs and nodes. And so instead of authority and power flowing downward, there's intelligence moving out through these communities where everyone's involved. And this new moon is really going to help to seed that shift. Because the dissolving of our old Piscean dreams also opens up space for an even newer collective vision. It came through to me a few cycles ago that we can't even really begin to put our finger on what is possible and where we're headed. And as we continue to move through this year, the realizations are absolutely forthcoming. And also, you know, if you have a look at this, the image of this chart that I told you I would share in the post, you know, even though this moon occurs in Pisces and there is, you know, a strong amount of Piscean energy, we also have, I'll get to this, Mercury conjunct the North Node in Pisces. So there's 4 aspects and objects in Pisces. We have equally, actually, even more energy in Aries. So there's strong Aries energy even in this Pisces moon chart. And that's, again, I believe, really signaling to the equinox that's just a couple days after this lunation. I mentioned that Neptune and Saturn have both entered Aries. We also have Venus at 15 degrees Aries. And we have an exact conjunction between Chiron and Eris at 24 degrees of Aries. And when I say exact, I mean exact, right in sync with this new moon. And so we know Chiron, you know, in general represents the wounded healer. But the wounded healer is really the place where our pain or our challenge becomes our truth and our shared wisdom. And Eris, you know, she represents disruption and the exposure of ego and injustice. Together, right now in Aries, they likely possibly bring to light wounds or pain points or potentials for healing around identity and belonging, and even autonomy and freedom, and what it means to be a worthy human being. And so they're really kind of inviting some challenging questions, but I think they're really apt for these times. Things like, who gets to lead and why? Who gets the who gets to authentically exist? Who gets to count? And also who has been excluded? So this alignment has the potential to bring tremendous healing individually and collectively. And it's, because it's in Aries, it's healing through courage. It's healing through harnessing our own personal power, realizing that we are the change. And I mentioned that we have, Mercury conjunct the North Node in the sign of Pisces. And now you've probably realized that I've said the word exact conjunction 3 times for this chart. So that's a pretty remarkable feature of this chart. Um, these guys are at 8 degrees of Pisces, and exact conjunctions across a chart in general are pretty rare. We've got 3. 3 is a really beautiful number. And if we remember that the North Node represents, where we're headed individually and collectively, it's the evolutionary direction of ourselves, and ourselves is a part of the vast everything. And where Mercury represents our communication, especially our communication as we understand it in this physical world. I would offer that Mercury, as humanity is awakening, it's not just about the letters and the texts and the calls and the things that we say. As we really wake up to the fact that we are broadcasting beings 24/7, we're always communicating, whether or not we realize it. And as we begin to harness that power, Mercury is really going to be able to become more powerful because it's a personal planet. And I think of Uranus as a bit of its higher octave here. But when Mercury meets the North Node, this means that our future is very much guided by our ability to harness this power of what we're communicating, of our conscious mind, of our thinking and our speaking. And Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo, to give you a sense of the many faceted nature of Mercury as well as the detail oriented nature. And so this is about, it doesn't mean we have to be super meticulous as to a pain point about what we're vibrating about, but it's really going to invite us to push pause on the things that we give our attention to. And that doesn't mean that we need to live in an airy fairy world and we should just ignore everything, but really to realize that how things that we look at make us feel, and to make sure that we spend time every day seeding our lives and the collective with the vibration that we choose, that we want, that comes from our heart. And so that in and of itself is a powerful moment. It's also worth noting, I mentioned that Mars was in Pisces. So there's a looser conjunction here, but Mars is also, it's not an exact conjunction, but it's operational. The energy of Mars is, again, going to bring action and courage. So, this alignment suggests that our communication is optimal when it's heart-centered and when it's conscious, and also that it's not a passive thing. This isn't something that we just relinquish and completely cut ourselves off from because it's a challenging day in the world. It means that we really sit with and own and understand how we're vibrating, and that we take conscious personal action. So there's this sense that our participation is needed, and yes, it does require some sense of courage. And then finally, we have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, conjunct within a degree of Sirius. Sirius is one of the brightest and most mythologically significant stars in the sky, at least to me personally. I think of it as the central sun to our sun. You've probably heard me talk about the binary relationship between our sun and Sirius, and how that binary relationship, those when their two orbits overlap, the further away the sun and Sirius get, the more humanity descends into darkness. It's linked to the Yuga cycles. It's linked to the vast cycle, 24,000 year cycle of time, about humanity descending and ascending in its consciousness. And the notion being that Sirius is the central sun to our sun. The closer Sirius gets to our sun, the more fine-tuned the communication transmissions get. And if Sirius is taking information from the galactic center and filtering it and honing it to send it to our sun for our solar system, so that our sun can filter it and hone it and send it to us, the closer everybody gets, the more that communication gets right on point. And so when we have Jupiter conjunct Sirius, Jupiter expands, Cancer nurtures, and Sirius amplifies, I would say, our ability to understand who we are and why we're here in this destiny type of energy. So together, this all creates a really potent current of Cancerian emotional nourishment, Cancerian protection while we're expanding, while we're on this trajectory energetically to raise the collective consciousness. And it's also worth noting that Jupiter and Sirius are trining Mercury, the North Node, as well as Mars in Pisces. So this is, again, a supportive flow of energy. And this is going to be supporting our communication, supporting our intuition, and supporting us in taking aligned actions, consciously understanding that what we look at and what we speak about and what we do is very much the ripple outward. And the wisdom from Pisces, the wisdom that we've culminated, can now begin to do just that, to ripple outward. So, this Pisces new moon, it feels very much like the final breath of the zodiacal cycle. It's asking for surrender, for forgiveness and release. But really, immediately on its heels, the spring equinox is approaching, or just the equinox in general. The astrological new year is beginning a new chapter. And with Saturn and Neptune now in Aries, the collective story is turning toward courage, vision, and this new rebirthed identity. And even though we can feel that hope on the horizon, we're in this stillness, we're in this final degree. And this reminds us that before the spark comes the stillness, before the beginning comes the release. So let this new moon be that quiet clearing that prepares you for everything that is possible and potential ahead. And before I get to the meditation, I want to give a quick invite to everybody who listens. I'm going to be offering, in sync with the equinox, on Friday, March 20th, an equinox gathering where we can come together as a community. We'll do it online. If you're not already a part of my email list, that is how I share information on free gatherings that I offer. So I'll put a link in the notes so that you can hop onto my email list and mark a calendar for 12 noon on the 20th of March. That's when we'll be getting together for the equinox. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to a meditation. As we're coming to the end of this exploration of the Pisces new moon, I feel like this is a really great time for us to integrate. So go ahead and allow yourself to settle comfortably. Let your body be comfortable and supported. Let your spine be straight. You can sit or you can lie down. And as you just kind of subtly start to lengthen the spine, let your shoulders relax. Bring your awareness to your breath and take just a gentle inhale in through the nose. And release that long, steady exhale through the mouth. Again, breathing in through the nose. Just feel your body, the physical apparatus breathing. Feel the air in the nostrils. Feel it travel down the back of the throat. Feel the rise of your ribs. And as you're releasing the breath through the mouth, feel the chest fall. Feel the air leave your mouth. And again, just staying with the breath, experiencing. Let the body arrive here in this moment with the breath. And go ahead and bring your awareness. As you bring your awareness into your body, feel the weight of your body. Feel yourself being held by the seat or the floor or whatever it is beneath you, held and supported. And then start to send roots down from the base of your spine or from your feet or from wherever is facing the earth. Send energetic roots down into the soil beneath you. And feel yourself being held by Mother Earth, by Gaia herself. Send those roots down and out as deep and as wide as you want and feel called and need. And feel every root be seen and met and nourished and welcomed. And while Pisces is water, even water needs a container. So this earth beneath you is that container, is that support. And feel that steadiness. See if you can start to open your heart to receive the nourishment and support that is always present from Mother Earth. Feel that you don't have to do everything alone. And as you connect your heart down into the soil beneath you, and you can feel yourself always seen and held and nourished, also connect your heart up to the sun and the moon and the stars above. The sun shines on everyone. The moon beams her energy down, whatever phase she's in, on everyone, regardless. So feel yourself seen and supported by the sun and the moon and the stars. And now imagine yourself standing with your feet in the sand on the shores at the edge of a vast ocean. Your feet in the sand still help you stay rooted down. And the ocean represents the final and vast, never-ending waters of Pisces. The place where all of our experiences, our memories, our emotions eventually return. And now, as you're standing at the edge of this ocean, notice the gentle rhythm of the tide. Notice it sort of syncing up with the breath that you're breathing. Each wave arrives as you're breathing in, and as you exhale, each wave recedes. And as we were exploring that concept of releasing and letting go, and with the understanding that immediately on the heels of the exhale is another inhale. Immediately on the heels of the wave receding, there's another wave lapping up onto the shore, reminding us that nothing is held forever. And allow yourself to imagine sending into the water as it's lapping up around your ankles, releasing into that water anything that feels complete. Old stories, old patterns, old efforts, old identities. Let the water of the ocean pull that from you. Release it into the ocean. Let them drift. Let all that energy drift out into the ocean. Just like the waves and the breath are always coming and always going. There's no force here. There's just intention and allowing and release. And just like the soil beneath us, if we're farming, the waters of the ocean know how to dissolve what is finished. So just spend a few moments here with your breath, just sending out into the ocean. And with the energy of Pisces, there's this sacredness in this moment, this new moon. Pisces reminds us that endings are sacred, not because they're dramatic, but because they make space. Space for the next inhale on the exhale, space for new life, space for the future to come. And if you feel called, you can silently repeat within yourself, I allow this cycle to complete. I allow this cycle to complete. I release what no longer belongs to my path. I release what no longer belongs to my path. And I trust the wisdom of endings. I trust the wisdom of endings. And now take another slow inhale. And as you breathe in, imagine that water is just lapping up around your ankles. And as you exhale, again, release and let the body soften even further. Now, as you're standing at the shoreline with the waves gently lapping up, coming to greet you and receding, imagine the horizon beginning to glow with a soft light. This light represents the coming season of Aries, the beginning of the zodiacal year. And even though it's not here now, we can see it on the horizon. Even as we're at the ending, we can feel and see the light of the beginning. But there's this peace of standing at the edge of this ocean. There's this wisdom in knowing that we don't need to rush toward anything. We're just noticing it, that quiet spark on the horizon. And with all the wisdom that we've culminated through this journey in this last zodiacal year, we remember that the future does not arrive all at once. The future begins with a single step, a single moment of courage, a single seed that we choose to plant, a single breath. And that we're always potentially seeding our future. But this particular seeding moment is a potent one. So if it feels in alignment, you can repeat to yourself inside or aloud, I welcome the new cycle with clarity. I welcome the new cycle with clarity. I move forward with courage and with compassion. I move forward with courage and with compassion. And now bring your awareness to your heart center, where your heart is, but right on your spine at the center of your chest. And under this new moon, the heart absolutely becomes a compass. This isn't a map of the whole future. This is just a gentle knowing of wisdom, a sense of direction, a sense of meaning, a sense of truth. And as you're still connected to your breath with your feet on the shore of this vast ocean, send the energy of your breath into your heart space and see a flame burning there or a light. And notice that the tone of this lighter flame is steady and it is calm. And notice what color it takes. There's no wrong color here. Just let this light represent the heart wisdom, your inner knowing, your intuition. And as you connect to the wisdom of the heart has more neurons than the brain. And science has documented that the energetic and magnetic field of the heart is much more powerful and extends out much further than the energy of our brain. That our heart is potentially the center of our intelligence. And as you connect to your heart, just start to feel that you don't need to force any answers right now. That all that is really necessary is a connection to this truly potent aspect of ourselves, our heart center. We get to now trust the quiet guidance of the heart. And now just slowly begin to deepen your breath. Feel your body breathing. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Bring your awareness back into your physical body. Bring your awareness back into the room or the space around you, to the ground, the earth beneath you. And before we close, just take a moment to acknowledge here the transition that we as individuals and as a collective are standing within. This is subtle and it is profound. It's the end of a cycle. And right on the heels of the end of the cycle is the beginning of another. And both are sacred. Staying here for as long as you'd like in this space. But when you feel ready, just gently let your eyes open. And potentially set the intention to carry this heart-centered softness and wisdom with you. The new year is approaching and you are ready for it. Have a blessed new moon, a blessed lunar cycle, and a blessed equinox. I'm truly grateful for you. Bright blessings and so much love.